Right here on the Afia Sports Show, and I am your priest of football, Emeka Madoka, aka Femelo, and I'm joined by the guy who thinks he's him, KP. You're welcome. And we have the divinator of football, Divine. You're welcome.
Thank you.
And CC the Rabbi, not just here to give us the daily gospel, but the gospel in sports as well.
Oh yeah, good. Thank you.
Okay, let's get down to the nitty gritty. I mean, the international break has just been concluded. Football, the actual football we want, is back. And we just have to touch a little bit on what happened in the international break before we dive into what's coming up this weekend. I want to go to have your thoughts, Mr. Sisi. This just concluded the international break. Before we go to Europe, I want to just focus on the Nigerians' last two games. Really shaky. We've had a draw against Benin and a loss to Rwanda. Do you see it as a loss of concentration from the boys because they qualified, or it was just a bad run of form?
Well, thank you first of all, Femeno. It's great to be here. KP Divine. It's really good to be here too. And concerning the issue of the last international break, I'm sure I'm echoing the sentiment of many Nigerians and maybe many good fans of football that the fact that the next international break will come up in March 2025 is good news. Very good news for some of us who have allegiances here and there, because injuries have been an issue. But that notwithstanding, that aside, the debacle, because that's what I'll call it, let's call it what it is. The debacle that was that game between Nigeria, the Super Eagles of Nigeria, and the Amavubi of Rwanda had many downsides for a reason. Okay, the only upside we could look at is the fact that, at least with 2 games to spare, Nigeria had qualified. So that's a lot of pressure off the shoulders. But one thing I always like telling people is this: whenever it comes to the world of sports, whenever it comes to competitive sports, momentum is key. You need to leverage on the gift of momentum. You need to work hard to get positive results, because positive results give you a positive morale, a morale boost, and then you keep on moving and moving. Now, Nigeria, the last 2 games, they did not need to win, to get any points from those games, thanks to our wonderful host, Libya. Now, Libya got the job done against Rwanda in Kigali. So that means that the Super Eagles of Nigeria didn't need to get the points that they needed prior to that game, and that's why they went there. I could excuse them and say, yeah, there was loss of concentration. Okay, there was nothing to play for anymore. The Beninois knew what they wanted. Raw was leading them, and then they went ahead and then managed to salvage a draw thanks to Victor Osimhen, Ababola himself, getting the equalizer, moving him to joint second with Shego Demari. That's mathematics, scoring 23 goals. So they now have 23 goals, and they have 14 goals. When I say they, I'm referring to Osimhen, because Odebami at 70 plus can't play again. I'm sorry, but at least Osimhen has an opportunity to try and bridge that gap of 14 goals between himself and the late, great Rashidi Yekini, who has 37 goals. So that was a motivation, and the result came out fine. We did not lose. Very important. But coming up against Rwanda wanted to get the result. Nigeria, for some reason, were just out of sorts. They did not play well as we know them to play. Everybody didn't show up. We thought that the game against Benin Republic was something that was just a mishap, a one-off. It didn't prove to be, because there was no morale, there was no drive. Was it because of that result that they didn't need to get any more? But the problem there, my issue right now is this: Rwanda is in the same group as Nigeria in the World Cup qualifiers. You need to have momentum, and how better to get momentum than to beat the team that you know you're going to meet again in this same stadium, on that same turf, that is the Godswill Akpabio International Stadium. Because Rwanda grabbed a draw against Nigeria in the early stages of the World Cup qualifiers. So it's more like, I know I'm not one who's superstitious, but when you're looking at the results, you're looking at a mirroring of what could happen. They got a draw in the first leg away in Rwanda in the World Cup qualifiers. And then this time around, you got a draw away. No, I mean, in the Nations Cup qualifiers. So if you're going to mirror the results, I'm talking from a psychological standpoint, you want to mirror those results, you find out that the Rwandans have an edge, psychological edge. They came, they saw, they conquered. They came from behind against Nigeria, something that not too many countries, in fairness to the Super Eagles of Nigeria, have found it easy to do. Because whenever Nigeria takes a lead, more often than not, Nigeria do not lose the game. Yeah, they may draw the game, they may drop the points, but they rarely ever lose games that they've had leads in for a very long time. So that was really a shock to many people. After that goal that was scored by Samuel Chukwueze, it's a beautiful goal for the matter. He just had to spoil everything by getting the result. So what I'm saying in essence is this. This international break is over. Thank goodness for that. The next international break will come up in March 2025. World Cup qualifiers will continue. And I'm just hoping that they'll bounce back and work that out, because against Rwanda, we cannot lose any game again in the World Cup qualifiers.
Just for the want of time, I want to get your thoughts, KP. I mean, like he said, clearly this is a drop of momentum in Nigeria's game, and building up to the World Cup qualifier, we are going to face Rwanda again. Now, what is the vocal point that Gavon has to give his boys when that time comes?
Okay, just as the rabbi has said, the fear is that most people were seeing the game against Benin and Rwanda as dead games. So we have already qualified for AFCON, no need again. Forgetting that these two teams are still in our World Cup qualifying group. Now Rwanda sits top of the standings in the World Cup qualifying group, and losing a game to them, or it's just a huge drop off that we did not need to happen. And some things that may even the whispers around is that Libya may be going to the Court of Arbitration for Sports, to plead their case. I don't see it as it's not going to be successful. I don't see it as something that's going to produce any result. But in football, I think we should learn to see every game as a competitive game, because that will help us in the long run. Now, Nigeria has found herself in a sticky situation now, going into the World Cup qualifier, losing or dropping points to the same team over and over again, and expecting, okay, this time it's going to be different. But now we need the points. We need the points. They sit comfortably 4 points ahead of us, Rwanda, in the World Cup group. And it's just a difficult situation, a sticky one that we found ourselves in. And fingers crossed, we can still make something out of it. But the chances are not looking good at this point.
We could just keep on going back about the form of Nigeria and how we've lost momentum going into that match against Rwanda. But I mean, it's on Austin Agavon to get his boys back on track.
Yeah.
Can he get the boys gingered enough to play for what they need to play for? I mean, I want to ask you, Divine, just before we move to the next topic.
Yeah.
Thinking about the team with been playing Boniface over Osimhen, the likes of Lukman had traveled back, Olaina not in the squad, Bassi. Do you think that was what maybe led to the drop in form? Or do you feel like it was just a fluke?
It could be part of it. It could be part of it. You never can tell. But the point is, those who are available should also be able to get the job done. That's one thing about the team. Because you don't have some key players, some starting players, doesn't mean that the ones who you use should actually, flout their form. So the thing there is that it could be, it could not be, you never can tell. But I don't know what happened. I don't know how they performed in the game. I don't know. But for me, I would say that even if we should find ourselves in such situations, let's just say maybe it's not that they went off, let's just say that they got injured. Doesn't mean that we will have to give ourselves excuses because our starting guys were not available due to injury. So we should learn to adapt that even when our starting guys are not there, the substitute who would start the game should be able to deliver just the same way the starting guys did.
Okay, just to add to what you said, I completely agree with you. Everybody should be ready to jump into action. But going back to what I was saying before, seeing the game as a dead game, there were talks that Nuno Espirito Santo, that's the manager of Nottingham Forest, dialed up Austin Agavon saying, okay, please, can you send in Olaina? We are playing us now, we need him, and you guys are qualified. Now, releasing a player like that, okay, you can go back, you can join your club side, there's no problem, we've qualified. It's like sending a message to the group saying, okay, we've qualified, so this game, I just want you to test some players. It's not really about winning the game. It may not have said it, but it can be the message that players got. Like, it's not really, now, okay, you can go back to your club side right now, just help them, we have gotten the job done. I'm forgetting that we need to, test ourselves against an opponent that we'll still be facing again in a bid for the World Cup qualifier. So I think those are just the little things that we need to tighten up and work on moving forward.
If I may add to what, because basically, KP and Divine hit the nail on the head in this matter. First of all, it's an indictment on Austin Agavon. I'm not going all pitchforks out saying, oh, we want his head and all that. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just pointing out the flaws in coaching and in decisions. Every decision has the potential to backfire because it's an indictment in the sense that you've told the whole world in many respects that you don't have any regard for the remaining games. Because if you have regard for the remaining games, you're going to bring your best players available, which then leads to the conflicting thought. So that what's the conflicting thought? There's a conflicting thought in the sense that you're trying to tell us that we don't have enough squad depth. And if you don't have enough squad depth, that means the selection was your problem. You made that selection. You got the players that were there. Do we have, you could argue that there are some other players that should have been called up instead of, the players that were called up. But yeah, I know that Olaino, for instance, just like you said, was called up because of Nuno Espirito Santos. He had that discussion with Cerezo. And then based on the importance of the upcoming game against Arsenal, Nottingham Forest needed Olaino. We know his versatility. We know his ability on the ball and off the ball. So are you trying to tell me that somebody like Bright Osai Samuel, the pumper himself, if you want, from Fenerbahce, he adds not just football, some other things, though he's a defender of the course, if you get what I mean. If you remember what he did of Fenerbahce last season. Now, this is somebody, are you trying to tell me that he's not good enough? Because he didn't show himself to be good enough on the day. Everybody had a bad day in the office. So basically, and then you factor in the other players that were returned. Moses Simon played. Samuel Chukwueze, who scored a brilliant goal, played. Kelechi Iheanacho, for reasons best known to us Guavon, because I like Senior Mankels. But Senior Mankels has not had a good run of form in Sevilla. Yeah. And then again, you're bringing that to the Super Eagles. To the Super Eagles. And it affected everything because we've qualified. But momentum is key. And then also the job, the prospects of Guavon, because if he had been thinking about this, the prospects of him remaining as a permanent manager become dimmer and dimmer because you don't lose games, no matter how good you are on the standings. Yeah. Once you drop points, you lose games at home. You definitely the pitchforks will come out. People will come after you, and I think he needs to understand that.
This is something Austin will have to look within and try and get it sorted out before the World Cup qualifiers. Missing out on the last World Cup was a big blow for Nigeria, and it will be a bigger blow if we miss out on the next one coming in 2026. But I want to jump straight to the Npfl, and quite a few matches were postponed, quite a few matches were put on hold, and I want to ask your thoughts on that. The Rangers game also being affected in that. Can you give some of your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, first of all, concerning the Rangers and Heartland FC game, it's going to take place at the Danyanyam Stadium, and the postponement, well, really, it's not going to be too much of a problem, too much of an issue, because that is just delaying the inevitable. And what's inevitable? A cracking game of football. Mm-hmm. I'm not speaking from the standpoint of a Rangers fan, because it's not a hidden fact. I am a Rangers fan. I love Enugu Rangers. I love what they stand for. But I just have to be realistic. You're postponing the inevitable because Heartland FC are on the rise. If there's any team that's going to be at a disadvantage because of this postponement, it has to be Heartland, not even Enugu Rangers. Because Heartland FC have had a good turn. They've had an upturn of form. Emmanuel Amunike has done a good job so far. Remember, I've always said this, a Ugandan proverb I always thought, and I'll keep on saying it till I sound like a broken record, that an army of lions led by a sheep will always be defeated by an army of sheep led by a lion. And Amunike is definitely a lion. We know about that. We know his ability. This is, for crying out loud, a World Cup under-17 winner, under-17 World Cup winner. That's who he is. He discovered Victor Osimhen amongst other players. So this is somebody who has great pedigree in the world of sports. And you know what it's like when all these players gather around and they want to play for him. They want to play for Emmanuel Amunike. They want to become somebody. They want to show that they are worthy of being under his tutelage. So it's not going to be as easy a match as it is, as we think it might be for Fidelis Ilechukwu. And the truth of the matter is, Fidelis Ilechukwu is the defending champion of the Npfl, having won it with Rangers. He is the assistant coach of the Super Eagles setup alongside his very good friend, the Remo Stars coach, Dan Ogumodede. But still, it's a clash of tactics. It's a clash of two very brilliant tacticians. And that postponement, I don't think it's going to affect things a lot. Probably, like I said, Heartland may have to re-strategize a little bit because Rangers have some more time to think about how to break that up, because Heartland will not be taken for granted this time.
Well, it is a big clash, the rental derby. Like you said, it's delaying the inevitable. It's going to be a promising game of football. But the Npfl is back and we have some other fixtures coming up, which will be on the screen shortly. But I want to ask, Bendel Insurance Square United, that's games coming up today. We've got Lobby Stars, Kano Pillars, we've got Niger Tunnels, Ikorodu City, El Kanemi, Aqua United, Heartland, that's today. So which is the biggest fixture of the weekend? Is it the Oriental Derby, or are we going to look towards or maybe a clash between Aimba and Sunshine Stars, who seem to be doing well this season?
Well, Aimba and Sunshine Stars, that won't hold. I think it's been postponed because of
Okay,
the
it's been on
yeah,
hold.
it's on hold because of the CAF competition. But Aimba have had the match week 13 and 14 games because they are meant to be hosting Sunshine Stars. It's been postponed because of their clash with Al Masry in Egypt in the CAF Confederations Cup, and then match week 14 will also be postponed. Has been postponed. I beg your pardon, because they're meant to travel to the Sani Abacha Stadium to play Kano Pillars. So, but that would have been the biggest fixture for me, even with my Oriental bias. But that notwithstanding, putting the Aimba game aside, I'll be looking with keen interest at the Oriental Derby at Danyanyam Stadium, hoping for the best, although what I think is going to come out of that game is a draw. But one other game that you're looking at that really might pique some people's interest, it piques mine, definitely, has to be the game between Rivers United and Aqua United. You're looking at Finidi George. He's hosting, and they are trying to see how much they can bridge the gap. That's Rivers United, bridge the gap between themselves and Remo Stars, gap in quality, gap in consistency, gap in points, gap in goal difference, all the gaps that need to be bridged. But you're doing that against an Abia Warriors that have a familiar son of the soil himself, the former Rangers manager, the one that won with Rangers in 2016. That is Imama Amapakabu. So really, I think it's going to be a very, very wonderful game. Very, very interesting. Yeah.
All right, that's pretty insightful right there. And we will be going on a short break. After the break, stay tuned for more on the Premier League, La Liga, and so much more. We'll be right back. All right, you're welcome back to Yafe Sports Show, and I still remain your pistol football, Emeka Manoke, aka Femelo, and I'm still here with KP and Divine. Sadly, the rabbi had to leave us. I was about to introduce myself again. But let's get down to what's remaining for us this morning. And I just want to throw back to the international journey. You saw the whole UEFA Nations League build up and everything. You saw how we had teams that have qualified for the quarterfinals. This has reached the nitty-gritty of that tournament. But before we get there, how do you see some of these teams? How did you see them fare during the international break? Did you see the likes of Portugal shooting on? I want to get your thoughts, KP.
All right. In the international break, most football fans, their saddest period in the calendar. But I feel the international break gets a lot of stick. I enjoy the international break for what it is. I didn't enjoy it entirely, but you have to accept that it's just lower quality football. But players have to, the truth, you may laugh, but players have to represent their countries. Sometimes you see the argument of, players going back to their club side, paycheck versus national pride and all. But I really enjoyed the games in Europe. Portugal dismantling Poland 5-1. That was it was an entertaining game, thoroughly entertaining game. Rafael Leao putting on the style, as he always does for Portugal. Recently, he had a tough start to his season in Milan. So this season it was a very tough and poor start by his standard, but you can see him picking up in their last couple of games before the international break, and he always turns on the staff of Portugal. Like, you see him playing with so much confidence, as if alongside Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano, he's the main. They're the main guys in Portugal. They look up to create something. So it was interesting to see him again, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the upcoming transfer window with Rafael Leao, because for a fact, you can tell he is not happy in Milan with the current coach, Paulo Fonseca.
I didn't want to dive into that, but I wanted to dive in that later on. But he has indicated his interest on wanting to join Barca. That has been ringing around the social media.
And watching games like this in international break, him playing that way, you can see the reason why a club like Barca can be in his mind, because he has that level of quality and all. And then we saw the teams that played well and did qualify from their group for the UEFA Nations League quarterfinals.
I did want to ask this.
Beautiful, yeah.
That game against Italy and France was one for all to watch. It was kind of like a revenge game for France over Italy. The 3-1. Because I think earlier in the international break, Italy had done that against them. So it was kind of, you do me, I do you back kind of situation. But I want to ask, now that the UEFA Nations quarterfinals has been set, who do you see maybe linking or sneaking themselves into the final and grabbing the prize? Do you see France, maybe Mbappe leading the team to victory? Maybe Portugal, Ronaldo lifting another UEFA Nations League? Do you see Netherlands, Spain? Maybe Yamal adding to his cabinet? I mean, I'm asking, I'm trading up for today.
Okay. The thing there, for me, all I'll say is that as long as Spain is still in the tie, they're still in the picture, they have a good team. They didn't even use their full squad in the last outing they went. This just
I mean, they
concluded,
were out with players like Yamal went there, some other key players, Nico Williams,
exactly,
and so.
Williams. I think Carvajal
Yeah, Carvajal is still on
on
injury.
injury. Okay, so you see, even with some of their star players being benched or falling out to injury, they are still producing amazing results. So for me, I would say Spain is actually there to actually make something happen. Portugal, should I say, for a good number of reasons or to a great extent, they are kind of building this chemistry with the Rafael Ronaldo. We shouldn't even talk
let's
much.
not
You know
discredit
what-
the Italians or the Germans. They face each other in the clash.
Yeah, I'll say it's going to be a difficult one to tell. These European giants, the thing about them is every single time they play each other, anyone could win.
Yeah.
Any one of them could win. Any one of them could win. And it's always interesting to keep an eye on it because today Portugal may beat Germany. Tomorrow Germany is going to trash Portugal. And you can't really
You
tell.
can never really
Just
tell
like-
where
just like
it's going, actually.
Italy
But
hits
for
France
sure.
and France hits back.
Yes, but for sure, what I can say is the team I will be cheering on.
It's Portugal. I didn't know your allegiance to
It's-
Portugal
it's-
already.
yeah.
It's not difficult to tell, but it's beautiful to see
Yeah,
what
affiliations with
Roberto
them.
Martinez
So I
is
just
doing
want
right now.
to run a quick rundown on predictions for the quarterfinals. I want to get your thoughts. Italy, Germany, which of the giants do you see taking it at the end of the day? Do you stick with the Italians or do you stick with the Germans? You?
Okay, for me, I'm just going to slightly, I'm going to lean towards Italy. Everything tells me Germany, but my gut tells me Italy, so I'm going to just lean towards them.
Divine?
Again on the spotlight. All right. Okay. I will actually Well, okay. I'll give it to the Germans. Let me just leave it there. I'll give it to the Germans.
Well, I for one will stay with Divine. I do see the Germans getting a win over the Italians. But
I've
I
never been
put-
wrong, though.
I-
So
Who said
just
What?
I can recount
What?
times.
Just
I
say-
can recount times.
How
you've been wrong,
many
bro.
times
Don't
you've been
go there. I can
Well,
tell
let's-
every
let's
time you've
move
been
on.
wrong.
A walkover for France over Croatia, or do you see the Croatians pulling off a shock?
you know, with Croatia, their golden generation is
Slowly fading
it's
away.
fading away, and they don't have the strength again. But you can see, as they always do, they showed up in the quarterfinals now to be here. Despite many people predicting that they will not make it even to the quarterfinals of the UEFA Nations League, and France. Of late, they have been a bit shaky. You have to say they have not really been. You know,
Yeah.
it's a point of transition for the national team.
Yeah.
And we don't know if Mbappe will be there. You know, rumors about why he wasn't called up this time, whether it's personal choice or Didier Deschamps. And so it's going to be an interesting game, but I just see France edging in quality and, coming up tops in that game.
Okay, this is a big fixture for me, the Netherlands versus Spain. I would normally stick towards the Spaniards because my allegiance is with them due to my Barca side. But I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you feel the Dutch could pull one over KP? Do you feel they could pull one over the Spaniards, or are we giving it to the Spaniards to just do what we expect them to do?
Honestly, I love the Dutch national team. I love the crop of players they
The build
have.
up.
I just have one problem with them. The manager, Ronald Koeman, he doesn't seem to ever get it right with them. You can see some positive results here and there, but you can always tell that something is going to go wrong. So there have been some improvements. He has tried even playing Zaski in the number 10 position. They have wonderful players like Reinders, Brobbey, all those players in form. Avi Simons now on an injury, so he's not
Frankie de
going
Jong.
to be showing up. But I just have to stick with the likes of Yamin Lamal, Nico Williams, and Fabian Ruiz. I think they're going to come up tops.
You didn't mention Daniel Pedri and Gavi.
Well, those are the quarterfinals for the UEFA Nations League. I mean, we can't wait for them to play out and see which giants will sneak into the finals and who's going to claim their hands on that cabineted prize. Most people would be looking to maybe a CR7 and maybe get another shiny medal and shiny trophy in his cabinet.
It's possible.
It's possible.
All these teams are all giants in Europe. So
Actually.
at this point, you can give it to any one of them because they are
I just
all
want to say this. Don't discount the Danish side. They could just pull one over the Portuguese. You never know. But moving on.
okay.
Moving on. The football we've been waiting for is back. I mean, the PL is back. And the biggest fixture of the weekend is Man City Tottenham. Now, I want to ask, is that the Etihad? With the recent form Man City had before the international break and Tottenham's shaky life towards before the break, who's going to claim this match? Is Pep going to finally bounce back to the Pep we know? Or is Angie and his boys just going to sneak a win?
Yeah. We thought it's crazy.
It's a dicey game,
I would have
actually.
said this is prime opportunity for them to
capitalize.
But you must remember, they started this poor run of Manchester City in the Carabao Cup. They beat them. They were the first team, to kick off the losing spree of Manchester City. But the inconsistency with this side is crazy. You could have said, oh, for sure, this time Tottenham have a chance to go and pick up 3 points at the Etihad. But I feel Guardiola's side has had the time to rest, now for the game.
Get themselves back into
players that have been injured, have had time to recover, like Kevin De Bruyne. We may see him starting this time around. And I just see it as a game where Manchester City come again and remind everyone that they are not out of the title race at all. It's just 1 point and they are still well
I
and
do
truly
want to ask you, Divine. Tottenham have been consistently inconsistent. And do you see that as a big problem facing City? Do you think maybe with the likes of De Bruyne coming back into the City side, a little bit of momentum, a little bit of maybe form and the team getting energized again to do the job? Or do you see maybe a draw for emphasizing, or maybe City just dropping points, 3 points or so?
Okay, with De Bruyne coming back into the side, they say a tree can't make a forest, but there are certain trees that you can't just remove from that forest. So I would say this: De Bruyne coming back is a very big plus for the team. I think it will give them this kind of edge, this kind of hope that okay, I think we can actually muster up. Let the midfield can be more organized. You can see Rodri falling out to injury, and we've seen how it's been. So for me, if De Bruyne is back, and then we hope he finds his feet ASAP, because that's also another important factor, coming back and then finding your feet. So I don't believe he's rusty. He's still good at what he does. So if De Bruyne is back, then we are seeing Man City doing something in that team. But for me personally, I'm seeing a win for Manchester City.
And another thing to add to this is all the games Man City have lost have been away from home. None of them have been at the Etihad. So coming to the Etihad now, I think we're going to see
a different side of this one.
Play how we expect them to play. Sad for Tottenham because rumors around is that
they are not going to be with their defensive duo.
Yes,
Romero and
Van
der
der Ven
Ven.
and Romero are not going to be playing. And Postecoglou is under a lot of pressure. Daniel Levy is not a patient man, and it can just get messy there. And we will just watch and
could we see him as one of the managers to probably get the boots this season if things don't change around?
I hope he doesn't, because he has shown us that he's a manager with attacking flair and a good principle and philosophy. But Daniel Levy doesn't hear all these things I'm saying. So he's
not hearing you.
He's not listening to what I'm saying. So
No,
Levy has never been a man of peace. He's always been,
and he's not a man of the people. So you need to understand that.
Well, I mean, it is shaky at Tottenham right now. That matches today and at the Etihad. But I want to ask, it is the return of Enzo Maresca to the King Power Stadium since he moved from there. Do you see it as maybe the old maestro coming back to tell them, I miss you boys, but I got to take my 3 points and take it on the road? Or do you think the homeboys, the Foxes, are going to do against the Blues? I want to throw your predictions out there. I mean, do you see?
It's difficult to tell. There's no beautiful homecoming here for Maresca. Yes, he got them promoted to the Premier League, but I don't think there was any special connection with the Leicester fans or relationship there. It was not really a strong bond. So we are not expecting
He just came to do his job.
Yeah, I was there for business. So my prediction, strictly, I think Leicester is going to give it their best in the early kickoff, but Chelsea may just have a narrow win.
So, a win for Chelsea?
Yes, a narrow win.
A win for Chelsea as well?
Yeah, same thing.
Well,
same
I
thing.
do fall in line with that. Maybe a narrow win, maybe a 2-1 win for Chelsea. I mean, Arsenal do play Nottingham Forest. You got Villa versus Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Brighton, Everton, Brentford, Fulham, Wolves, Man City, Spurs. The Saints take on Liverpool. I mean, I've always loved that fixture and time pass. Could it live up to the hype, or will Liverpool just walk over the Saints again? We do not know. And the big vocal point, the main man in town, the new boy, as they say, Almiron takes on his first match in charge of Manchester United against Ipswich. And we've got Newcastle, West Ham. That's the end of the fixtures for this week. But I want to ask, that game is a big vocal point from a Manchester United perspective. I want to ask, can Almiron get the job done in his first game? Or would he face for a draw, or would he fumble at his first?
Before I give my response, before I give my response, something I must add. This is an interesting clash because this Karen McKenna was the manager that Manchester United obviously were interested in the summer before finalizing with Erik ten Hag that he was going to continue. So it's an interesting clash between the wannabe and the current manager of Manchester United. But this is Sir Alex Almiron we're talking about.
The delusions.
There we go.
The delusions are kicking in.
There we go.
This is Sir Alex Almiron.
Okay.
He's going to get the job done. He's the chosen one. He's the main man. He's the person that's going to take us back to the game.
I believe his name is Ruben.
I hope you say
I'm telling you who he is. He has the spirit of Sir Alex.
I hope you say this in the next 4 to 5 games. I hope you keep these tabs.
I'm going to say
You're
this
going
in 10
too
years
far. Let's
time.
see. You're going to do the job against Ipswich.
No, but the interesting thing about Almiron now, on a more serious note, is now talk of tactics and formation he's going to play. That has been the one that's been spinning my head because he likes his 3-4-3 formation, and where the Manchester United key players are going to fit into that is looking like it's going to be a challenge. Because in the press this week, you heard him saying that it's going to be difficult initially with no training to put wingers as wingbacks. So that's, many people's predicted lineup. We saw Garnacho going to be playing left wing back, but he said it's not going to be easy at first till they start training. So it now begs the question. We have Højlund, Ahmad, Rashford, Bruno, Anthony, Zexi fighting for 3 positions. How is that going to work? So that's the part I want to see how he's going to be able to manage the squad. But long term, I know he's going to do well. You can just feel the energy.
Divine, I do want to ask you this. Like he mentioned, he mentioned the wannabe versus the Mane. So are you going to see maybe McKenna showing why he should have been the one to get the job? Or is Almiron going to just hit the ground running? And what are your predictions? Do you see away for money, or Ipswich just stealing the points at the end of the day?
Okay, I'll be as plain as possible. This is his first game, right? So please, when something else that you don't expect, like all this you're hyping now, when it doesn't come to fruition in reality, please, you people shouldn't be in
the words of Odemodu Black, don't pressure on me.
I'm being serious here.
Don't pressure on me.
This was the way it started with Erik ten Hag. But please, all I'm just trying to say is, let there be no rush. This man must
give him time to build.
Exactly. This is all I want to say.
Know this player.
If he loses this
don't
match,
show the whole Alex montage on him.
That's Alex Ferguson. This is another Alex. Same name, different personalities, please. So for me, I'll actually, for the sake of Manchester United being a big club, a bigger club, I'll just say Manchester United to win the game. Oh, I hope they just carry on with
KP. See, but on the most serious, it's not an easy game. Going to Ellen Road, Ipswich Town,
and Ipswich is actually a good
game.
Ipswich have actually been good at home this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we should. That's why I say this is more reason why we should calm down.
But it's Alex. I don't know what we're talking about. You guys need to relax. So the energy that is in every Manchester United.
No, guys need to relax.
There's no relaxation here.
Divine, we can keep going on and on, but he's never gonna just drop that on stuff.
No problem. Until next week, or maybe by tomorrow morning, we'll call him and ask him how far.
Let's jump straight into the La Liga. Football is back in the La Liga, and Divine, can you remind us who's sitting on top of the table? Our Catalonia
Barcelona! Forza Barca!
Well, they had the fumble before the break to Sociedad. Flick's men will be wanting to bounce back
Yeah.
and keep the momentum going. But before the break was over, a certain GOAT had come out to say he's watching this Barca side and he's impressed. And we know the GOAT who we're talking about. I just Lionel Messi. He came out to say he's been impressed with this Barca side. And I mean, that is pretty close right there. It's pretty close right there at the top of the table between Barca, Madrid, and Atletico. I mean, do you see the table shifting anytime soon? Let me just ask this before.
You know, this week, Barca played their biggest bogey team in La Liga, Celta Vigo. Over recent years, over the last 5-6 years, even when MSN were in their prime, Celta Vigo were Barca's bogey team.
They were a team that gave us trouble.
Yeah,
over the
exactly.
years.
So it will be an interesting one. I remember Real Madrid have a game in hand against Valencia that has not been played yet. So
Due to the floodings or no?
you know, there's a lot of ifs and buts. If they win their game in hand, that makes them just 3 points behind Barcelona, which makes for a very enticing and interesting title race. Atletico Madrid can't be counted out yet, but they don't really have the quality that it takes. You see, these other two sides
They're not giving that
world
zest
beaters.
yet.
They have world beaters in their team, you know, Real Madrid and Barcelona, but at Atletico, you may just find just Griezmann there, and the rest are just players that are trying to break in.
Looking down on players like Rodrigo de Paul.
I'm saying they are good players, but they are not world beaters yet. They are not players that are broken into this world class bracket yet. They are very consistently good players. So it will take a miracle for them to win this La Liga season. I like watching Atletico Madrid. They're actually my favorite team in La Liga, but I just feel in terms of quality they will fall short this particular season.
Atletico Madrid is your favorite team in La Liga.
Yeah.
Did you just say that?
Yeah, that's what he said. But we have the fixtures coming up soon, and I mean, that sort of Vigo Barca game is the one to watch, actually, because do we see Flick and his men bouncing back from the defeat to Sociedad, or would Vigo give us troubles like they've given us in the past time? And yes, I say us because I do have affiliations to Barcelona. But those are the fixtures right there. Getafe versus Valladolid. You've got Valencia, Real Betis. You've got Las Palmas versus Mallorca. You've got Celta, Barcelona. You've got Atletico de Madrid versus Deportivo Alaves. You've got Girona versus Espanyol, Sevilla, Vallecano. You've got Leganés, Real Madrid, Osasuna, Villarreal, Atleti versus Sociedad.
I see Celta edging it, to be honest with you.
Winning Barcelona?
Yeah, I just see them edging it.
I do fancy more of a draw or a Barca narrow win.
You know, La Liga games, that's why we all enjoy La Liga so much. And everything
It's dicey to
yes,
call.
every team is a bit technical in their play. They have players that could just play a few passes and open you up. So Barca are going to come out with their high line again. But if these guys, you know, they can time their runs perfectly, which almost every team has failed to do this season against Barcelona, I think they can get the 3 points in this game.
Well, I want to ask, Real Madrid's game, is it a walkover for them?
I think they're just going to easily walk away with 3 points.
Okay.
I do want to ask, this game between Atleti and Sociedad. Atleti have been a club to watch in La Liga of recent years, but of recently they've dropped form and Sociedad have picked form. Do you see it as maybe the away side coming to claim 3 points? Or would the Atleti boys just get themselves back in track? I want to ask, do you see a shift in form or are they going to pick it back?
Atleti versus Alaves?
No, I'm talking about
Athletic
Bilbao versus...
That's going to be an interesting one. Those are the, you know, not top sides, but just below the top sides, La Liga top sides. I don't know if you understand that.
The European sides.
They are the big boys among the small boys. La Liga. So, but that's going to be a very, very interesting game. But I think Ernesto Valverde is going to, you know, his side's going to win the game and pick up 3 points against.
Do you see the same happening?
Yeah, sure. I can go to what he said. Atletico Bilbao, not such a, like he said, the big boys among the small boys. But the thing there is that when they come to meet Real Madrid or Barcelona, they actually kind of give them a little taste of their own medicine, a little. But for me, Atletico Bilbao just going to pick up the 3 points and move on.
Just before I leave the La Liga, there has been a side that has really amazed me this season, and I'm talking about CA Osasuna. They've been climbing up the table at a rapid pace. Do you think they could burst into Europe this season? Could it be possible? Could the impossible dream be possible? I mean, they are chasing it hardly, and I mean, they are going after it.
What's their position on the table?
If I'm not mistaken, they should be 7th or 8th right now. They climbed.
The thing there is, Yes, they have actually made it to the 7th position or 8th.
Yeah, that is
Oh.
it. They sit just behind Villarreal, who
Villarreal.
they are going to be playing.
Okay.
Do they
Okay.
snatch the 3 points to go above or level? Sorry, go level with Villarreal, or would the Villarreals just walk over?
With
This,
with Osasuna, what I'll say is, if you watch their game where they beat Barcelona this season, you could see that there's something about this team. They were the first team actually to bridge Barca's high line this season, and they did it comfortably. In that game, you could watch they did it time and time and time again.
Yeah.
Budimir could have gotten a hat-trick in that game. So I see them as a very, very good team. And this year, why not? Why now? There are many European competitions this time around. So now we may just be talking about, can they break into the Europa League? And I think they can. From the evidence of the games where we have watched them, in playing big teams, the way they still go about their game, they are not afraid of anybody. They play their style of football. Yes, I see them, making it into Europe this season.
They will make it into Europe if they keep their consistency.
well, that
Because
is
it's
the
not
key.
about how it
Consistency
starts.
is the key. I mean, they could have a good run of form right now and float at the end of the season. But I do really want to watch this Osasuna side break into Europe at the end of the season. They've been one to watch. They've been excited.
Where do you want
They've
them to
been
be?
key.
The UEFA Champions League? Or the
No,
Europa
I'm
League?
not gonna say the dream is that big. I'm just saying maybe a Europa League space, like KP said. It would be exciting to watch them in the Europa League, maybe with the likes of Manchester United also qualifying for the Europa League at the end of the season.
Okay, why are you pushing some buttons right now?
I've got to do one or two, just to make it exciting. But I mean, let me go to the league that has been exciting after the Premier League, and that's the Serie A.
Yeah.
We have 1 point separating first to sixth. It's been a big clash. I mean, the big boys, Napoli, as they say, are sitting on top of the table. After quite a poor season last season, they finished 10th and now getting themselves up into first place again. Will it be that the signings of McTominay and Gilmore in the midfield has helped rejuvenate that midfield? I mean, what's going on at Napoli?
As they say, one thing you always remember, Antonio Conte, with one game a week, is the most dangerous manager in the world. When he doesn't have any European competition, any cup affiliation, he is the most dangerous manager in the world, because you see him every day on the training ground building the same tactics that they are going to. He invents it into the players. That's why there may be some complaints that, after a while they get tired of it. They cannot, do it for seasons upon seasons. But it's beautiful to see. In Serie A, in the Premier League, we have what we call the Big Six. They say, they call them the Seven Sisters. So they call them Seven Sisters because they're always together. Like, only Roma is missing from the top six. And you can see from the table 26, 25, 25, 25, 25, 25.
You do have Napoli sitting on top with 1 point, 26. You've got Atalanta chasing them red hot with 25. Same points with Fiorentina, Inter, Lazio. Then we've got Juve in 24. We've got Milan chasing that table. We've got a key of players and teams red hot on the trail. I mean, that's the full log right there. But I want to ask, Lazio, are they the big surprise there? Sitting above Juventus, Milan by this stage?
It's just, what I'll say is that it's still early days to call. Juve had a very wonderful start to the season. They have dropped off a bit after that. But I see them still competing. If you watch their game, the 4-4 thriller between Juve and Inter.
Sorry to cut you short. Just before the log goes off there, I want to ask you, Divine. Roma have been inconsistent. They've had change of managers over the seasons. They've still not been able to find a gameplay to adapt to. I want to ask, is it really the managers or is just the whole system itself?
I could say that maybe the tactics of the managers that come in, maybe they doesn't correspond with what the players can actually abide to. That's what I'll say. And then based on that, I would also say that, how do I put it? The manager should actually try to make sure that every player knows what they are doing. It might come from their signing. Maybe they've been signing the wrong players and then maybe using them wrongly. That could be one.
I do want to ask, sorry to cut you there.
Okay.
Claudio Ranieri is the new gaffer in town for the Romans. And I want to ask, do you think he could get this side back into Europe, or it's just a statement to say, okay, we can still compete and get ourselves up the table? I want to ask you, KP, can they break back into Europe?
I don't think they will be able to break back into Europe. This is not the first time Ranieri is going back to Roma. Most times he goes back there when they are going through a tough time because that's the club of his dream and his heart, just to steady the ship when a lot has been happening. They have sacked a number of managers already this season, and they just wanted a steady hand that can guide them to the end of the season. Next season, they may go in search of another manager, and I just feel it was a big mistake to let Mourinho go and that set the club back a couple of years. But we'll see what happens to them over the next few weeks and seasons.
I do want to say this. The Bundesliga is quite different from last season. We had one team running away with the whole league. I mean, they've had everybody on arm's length, but now they've dropped form. I'm talking about Leverkusen. What's going on? Is it that it's a case of one season wonder, or I really want to get what's going on with that Leverkusen side? And they've said they'll be parting ways with Alonso at the end of the season. I want to get your thoughts on that. What caused the drop of form?
I would say, last season they had an extraordinary season, superhuman season, not a season we see by any team, even the big boys. So now we're just seeing them as a normal team now. Being in fourth place is not such a bad position for Leverkusen.
But given the form, the drop in form they had from last season.
It was that season. You could see even there were many games they were trailing in last season. At the end of the game, you see 90 plus 6, 90 plus 3.
90-minute man.
So, that it was as if it was a spirit carrying the club. That's how it has faded away a bit. But they are still playing, their football, doing as well as they can at this particular point in time. And I'll also leave him. Well, it was bound to happen. Some thought he would leave at the end of last season, but leaving now is not such a bad idea for him. Talks of him going to Real Madrid to replace Carlo Ancelotti. I will just see what the future holds for him at the end of the day.
To add to what he said, based on Xabi Alonso leaving, it's not a surprise that he would leave Bayer Leverkusen for the fact that he won the league with an underrated team. As a matter of fact, not even underrated, they are a small team. Yes. For the fact
that title in how many years?
For the fact that he won a title with such a small team would actually attract big teams looking for you. It's the small things that bring about the bigger things. So it's not a surprise that Real Madrid is actually out to get his services. So the thing there is that he should know what he's doing. He should try at least to keep them on there, at least so that they can qualify for the Champions League next season before he leaves them.
Just before we go, for the want of time, I just want to briefly bring this back. Asisa Osola wasn't nominated for CAF Women's Player of the Year. Any thoughts on that?
Well, this is the first time since 2015 that, if I'm not mistaken, she hasn't been nominated. And that's been a very long time, back-to-back consecutive winner. But I just feel that there was nothing wrong with her not being nominated. Sometimes something happens to world-class players. They start being judged by their own standards, not general standards. For example, if you look at Mohamed Salah, every year he turns out a world-class season, but we compare him to what he has done before, and we don't see it as anything special. So I think she's just suffering from her own success at this point in time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is something to watch when you see players who have been consistently nominated and all of a sudden, whoa, they're nowhere to be found. That's something you hardly really see. But I mean, this is the end of our sports show for today. Thank you guys for joining me.
Thank you.
Divine Kefi. I mean, I still remain your Bristol football, Emeka Madoka, aka Femelo. Stay tuned for more next Saturday. Goodbye.